Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So I do feel better, sound better. Still have a little bit of a cough here or there. Hopefully it'll sound a little bit better than my Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker Signature Edition review. But here it is. The quest is over, although I did do it backwards. I got the Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker Signature Edition, and then follow that up with Empire Strikes Back, and now of course I ended it with the New Hope. So this is indeed the Master Replicas Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope Luke Skywalker Signature Edition lightsaber. A very difficult hilt to actually find, especially with all the different parts, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. Pretty pricey, I guess, pricier than I thought it would be. But the way it shakes out, now that I have all three of them, I can tell you that in general, the signature Return of the Jedi version 2, that's going to typically be the most expensive, followed by the New Hope, and then ending with the Empire Strikes Back, which, you know, I guess makes some sense because there was only 500 of the signature version 2s from Jedi, and there's 750, as you can see here in the limitation plaque, 750 worldwide of the New Hope signature editions, and then 1,500 of the Empire Strikes Back. So the relative price tends to reflect the rarity. But if you think about it from that perspective, it's actually pretty amazing how much the Empire Strikes Back Luke has sort of kept pace. Because in reality, if you're going to compare apples to apples, and you're saying that you want like the lightsabers complete with all of the, packaging, certificate paperwork, things like that, and then look at the value, then I would say, it kind of depends. I would say that the brown shipper is a lot less important for the New Hope and the Return of the Jedi Master Replicas signature editions, mainly because by that time they had actually engineered, and I again should remind myself to start spinning this while I talk, so you can begin to at least admire the hilt from all the different angles. So by the time they got to the Return of the Jedi and the New Hope lightsabers, Master Replicas had already engineered their black box, which sort of just packaged everything, the base, the acrylic case, as well as the hilt and the plaques, and the certificate. All of that have been kind of engineered to be packaged in one self-contained box. And so the brown shipper was truly nothing more than just a second skin to ship then the lightsaber to the customer, and all of the actual protection, all of the important components was in the black box, the foam and all of that. And they had actually by that time sort of engineered it in a very, very sort of space efficient manner. It was very compact. Everything was sort of put together. They almost kind of put the foam like in a fashion so that they figured out a way to almost put the display case with the saber in it and then put the foam almost like in between, so it's very clever. And definitely I think the later lightsabers pieces, especially in regards to the acrylic cover, is a lot sturdier and a lot safer. I would definitely feel a lot more comfortable shipping those say, across the world or across the country than the earlier versions. And so by the time we got to that, at least for me personally, I don't think that losing the brown shipper means much to me, mainly just because that black box, the color box, and the inside of that with the foam and the layers is what's going to keep that mirror base and the acrylic display case and the hilt safe. And you just simply put the black boxing, in my opinion, a superior brown shipper, custom, way sturdier, way thicker, with peanuts all around. And so for me, excuse me, at least for Jedi and New Hope, lack of a brown shipper doesn't mean much, doesn't really affect the value very much. But for the older hilts like Dooku, for instance, Vader, a Vader, I think Empire, a Vader Dual Sig from New Hope, and the Luke Empire Strikes Back, that brown shipper becomes more important because that box actually is what holds the foam, and the acrylic case is just simply, just placed in the brown shipper with in its own brown box, and that brown box is then placed in the shipper. So in my opinion, that's a way worse way of doing it because there's nothing actually on the inside of the acrylic case to protect it from impact, trauma, and cracks. Whereas the new way of shipping it, when they did it later on, the acrylic was actually over a solid block of styrofoam, which is of course a way better way of doing that. So in any case, if you wanted to throw out the brown shipper contribution to value, then assuming that you have the original black box for Jedi and New Hope with all original packaging, and then the Empire Strikes Back, you have to have actually the original brown shipper with all of the internal brown boxes, then you're still looking at probably well above 3,000 for the Jedi. Haven't seen very many, again, with everything complete, cheaper than about 35. I mean, you might get lucky here or there, but that's the most expensive. The New Hope version right here with everything, and we'll discuss what that means, is going to be neighborhood of 3,000, not too much cheaper than that. And then surprisingly, Empire Strikes Back, you're not going to get to be too much cheaper than high 2,000s. Like, I got mine for 28 shipped, but I've easily seen Luke's go for the 3s as well from Empire. And so when you consider the fact that the Empire Strikes Back Luke is double the edition size of the New Hope and triple the edition size of the Return of the Jedi version 2, the fact that its value is only a few $100s cheaper than the other two is actually, quite a testament to the popularity of the Empire Strikes Back lightsaber hilt. And I discussed that in my review for that hilt about sort of its hold on the popular imagination of, slightly older Star Wars fans who was introduced to Star Wars through the original trilogy versus the prequel trilogy, for instance. So that's basically, my take on the value. So, in terms of rarity, and then how that rarity impacts the value of these things on the secondary market. Excuse me. Another interesting, so I guess maybe I'm not that much better off than when I made the Empire Strikes Back. I do feel tons better, but unfortunately there's just still these nagging little throat clearings and dry coughs, especially when I talk for a long period of time. It does catch up with me a little bit. But, excuse me, but another kind of interesting thing is that Master Replicas didn't produce the sabers in the order of the films. I don't know why they didn't do that. I mean, it might just be maybe availability for signatures, or just kind of the way they analyze the market. But they created, or they made, the Empire Strikes Back Luke first, followed then by the New Hope Luke second, and then ending with the Return of the Jedi version 2. And I think that the Empire Strikes Back was done in 2002/2003. You have to check the inscription on the end of the hilt. This inscription was in 2006, actually, and the Return of the Jedi version 2 was done in 2007. So these two, the New Hope and the Return of the Jedi Luke signature versions and hilts, were actually produced near the tail end of the Master Replicas run, because they lost the Star Wars license around 2007, I believe. So interestingly enough, there's quite a gap between Empire Strikes Back Luke and then the other two. And the reason for this is, it's lost, at least to me, through the mists of time, so to speak. Maybe it just had to do with business modeling. Maybe, people really wanted the others. Maybe in the beginning they thought that simply making one hilt from what their favorite movie, Empire Strikes Back or something like that, was good enough. So I don't really know the reason why they produced the hilt in that particular order, so to speak. But definitely, as time passed, the edition size for the signature editions drastically reduced. I mean, from 1500 to 750 in half, and then from 750 even further down to 500. And I'd also like to take the opportunity at this point to sort of, kind of pay homage to Mark Hamill, the actor who played Luke Skywalker, and just sort of, pay respect to him for how much, he obviously loves, Star Wars, and also kind of loves the fans. There are some, actors like Harrison Ford, who almost has a, what's the best way to put it, like almost a contempt, sadly, for Star Wars. I mean, he definitely doesn't really like, I don't think, Han Solo as much as Indiana Jones, for instance. But, I think Mark Hamill truly does love, the series, does love the material, does love what it's done for him. And he likes the lore, he loves the fans. And, he's the only actor where, during that time period, and we'll get into that maybe with some of my other lightsaber reviews, or maybe I've already mentioned it, during making of these films, I mean, there were a lot of actors who didn't really, at that time at least, want to interact with fans. This was maybe before the time where conventions like Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con or whatnot, or Star Wars Celebration was really big, and maybe the interaction between fans and stars, it was a difference, and at least when Master Replicas in the early 2000s was trying to put together their collectibles, there was a lot of actors who just didn't want to sign or didn't want to get involved. I mean, Ewan McGregor wasn't signing, Liam Neeson not signing, Ian McDiarmid not signing, Frank Oz definitely not signing. They could only get signature editions from actors who were willing to do so, And to his huge credit, Mark Hamill was the only actor who not only signed, he signed 3 times, for each lightsaber inspired by each of the original Star Wars trilogy movies. I mean, Hayden Christensen only did Attack of the Clones, Anakin. That, he didn't do anything else. He didn't do, for instance, The Revenge of the Sith, Vader hilt, which is understandable, I suppose, but I mean, he was in the suit, and he didn't sign for the Anakin Skywalker, lightsaber hilt from that movie either. Ewan McGregor didn't sign for any of the hilts in any of the 3 movies that he starred in. And so, we couldn't even get again, some of the actors to do even one of them, which is, in my opinion, a damn shame when you look at it now through the lens of, history, almost 20 years later. And now you've got Ewan McGregor and Ian McDiarmid, along with a lot of, other Star Wars actors and actresses attending celebrations and signing, no problem. But back then, they refused. Maybe it was just bad timing, or they had a different feeling about that. And that opportunity was lost forever, to have, again, a hilt with an official signature release, So that was, kind of, again, disappointing. And, Mark Hamill did that. He signed again and again. So that was something I just kind of wanted to point out that is pretty remarkable, in and of itself. Now, James Earl Jones and David Prowse actually also signed twice. First together for the dual signature Vader lightsaber from A New Hope, which is part of what makes that hilt so, epic and so legendary. And then coming back later on to do Empire for, Mr. Jones separately, and then David Prowse, of course, did Return of the Jedi. But even so, the Empire and Return of the Jedi were 500 each, and they only did that twice, whereas Mark Hamill did it 3 times, 1,500, 750, 500. He signed by far the most, total, of course, 2,750 signatures for all of these lightsaber hilts in production by Master Replicas. So that's just a staggering amount and pretty amazing, pretty impressive. So I got this from a private collector. In South Carolina. This was never displayed, and I have to say that when I opened it up, I really believed it. The outer packaging was a little bit dinged up here or there, but everything looked really pristine. This acrylic case, no yellowing at all. The mirror base in very good shape. This really looks like something that you would have almost, believed pretty much came fresh or mint out of the box. Now, granted, the box was opened. He did take it out. He did put the lightsaber on the stand with these plaques and the, paperwork, which we'll get into a little bit later on. So, he did touch it. He did work with it. Hopefully he wiped it off. But, so it's not completely sealed in box, but as far as the quality from the mirror base to the acrylic case to the actual plaques and the hilt, I really believe it was handled with kid gloves and never truly, displayed other than to be removed to take the pictures for, checking for damage, etc. So I'm just pretty, pleased with it. Again, short of buying a brand new sealed in box, I couldn't have asked for a better quality, hilt. And so having said all of that and having turned it around so you can kind of appreciate the two separate plaques, I'm going to take off the acrylic display case like we normally do. And then we're going to put the black background on, and then we're going to sort of start, kind of breaking it apart, breaking it down, and talking about all the different parts of this. Again, as is my usual, whenever I get a new saber in, I clean the base and the acrylic case with a brilliant eyes to put that extra little bit of sheen on it. But, again, this was one of the best cases I've had. Didn't really need much. A little bit of dust, but that came off. The mirror base, practically, again, brand new. Now, there's a little bit of micro scratches. And I do now believe that I would wager, and maybe one of these days I'll have a chance to put my theory to the test, but I wager that if I were to get one of these lightsabers, obviously not as expensive as a signature edition or even an elite edition, but if I just got like, you know, one of those other lightsabers sealed in box and just open it sealed, I would be willing to wager that the mirror base, even in a sealed in box, would have these little tiny micro scratches. Just because, again, that mirror base is an actual glass, and you know, whatever acrylic was used by Master Replicas just basically micro scratched, essentially incredibly, impossibly easily. And even these microscopic particles of dust, I bet, would create those scratches, you know. But I'm going to gently take this off. And we're going to put this away. And now with the acrylic out of the way, I put the black background against it. So I can adjust it. You can see that this thing actually spins very easily. So there is a little bit of unevenness either on the base or on this plaque. This, of course, is much more sturdy because it's much longer. So now that we don't have the glare from the acrylic, we can put the black background, and I will just slowly spin it again. So now you have a much better view of the lightsaber. Of course, eventually, like with all of my reviews, I'll be picking it up so that you can see it macro up close. It's also interesting kind of how, you know, the signature looks. I mean, obviously, if you compare the signatures, they're all Mark Hamill's, but in this one, it's pretty clear that he used a thinner black marker than the ones that he used to sign, for instance, the silver plaque for The Empire Strikes Back and the other plaque for Return of the Jedi. And since I have all three signatures, it's also kind of interesting to see the different ways that his signature varies slightly from, you know, from the years, and also the way he signs them and how they are similar as well. So this in particular is a really, really nice example of his signature. Let's keep moving it around so you can get an idea. I definitely shoot the longest lightsaber reviews on YouTube, for better or for worse. Part of it's just to sort of indulge my own fascination with the subject matter, and the other part's while I'm talking to sort of, again, give you the opportunity to really kind of maximize the time to appreciate, you know, these 20 plus years old collectibles. Again, in case you're wondering, the two legs are definitely not identical. You actually cannot display this lightsaber turned the other way. It has to be this way because this leg has actually grooves that's cut into it to accommodate the rubber T-tracks. And so if you were to display it the other way, it would be crooked because of that. Now, of course, if you want to display with the emitter turning to the right, you could do it this way. But the problem then is that you wouldn't be able to display the plaques quite as nicely, mainly because, you know, the legs here are more toward the back on this side. So it's not perfectly symmetrical. If we go on the side, you can see that the leg is definitely closer to this edge than this edge. And so they really mean for you to put the plaques here, where as you can see there's plenty of space to do so. Although if you wish, you could technically put the signature plaque in the middle between these two wider spread legs here. There's greater width, and then the worldwide edition plaque you can put on either side. So, you know, if you truly wanted to, you had that flexibility to do so. And because this hilt was produced in 2006, you can tell that the acrylic case, if you look at it over here, goes around the base. So there's a beveled edge, unlike the older versions, especially the Empire Strikes Back that I just did, where, you know, again, the lip was on the inside and the acrylic case actually lay inside the black base. So you can clearly tell that there's a beveled edge. So this is the newer version, which I greatly prefer over the old version. Okay, so now that we've taken the time to go over the outside, you've hopefully had a chance to appreciate the hilt without the acrylic and the glare. Let's check out these plaques. Usually I do the paperwork first, but in this case, let's just check out the plaques. So here you go. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Luke Skywalker lightsaber. You can see the Lucasfilm and Master Replicas logos. It's a signature edition, and mine is number 245. And then here is Mr. Hamill's signature. You can see, hopefully, that the signature is way more refined. The ink or the marker is not quite as thick. And at least to me, it's pretty obvious that he used a finer tip marker, or a finer tip marker was provided for him for these signatures. And in this case, he did actually sign it completely in the white rectangle like he's supposed to. In others, you know, he signed outside of it, but here, he definitely signed within it. Number is reasonably low, at least lower than 300. An interesting aside, apparently for certain, if you're like a member of the Masters Replicas Collector Society, their special society, I think you actually had the privilege when buying these sabers of getting like a lower number. So I think that Collector Society members were able to get numbers, lower numbers, all guaranteed to be below 300. Which was another nice perk. It also kind of tells you that there weren't that many, you know, Collector Society members. I mean, there couldn't have been more than, obviously, let's just say 300 of them. It would be my guess, because you want to be able to kind of guarantee that perk. So again, here is the signature plaque. Now you'll notice something very interesting. You'll notice that it just tells you the number 245, but it doesn't tell you what the worldwide edition size was. This is just kind of another example of, you know, I guess, mysterious and odd business decisions. And so I didn't really talk about it what, 7-8 years ago with my Darth Vader Revenge of the Sith limited edition video review, because at that time I didn't really understand it. But now, since we're doing this, I guess we're going to talk about it. So what is this plaque? This is a smaller plaque. Let's read it. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Luke Skywalker lightsaber, signature edition. You have the same logos here and here. And then it says worldwide edition 750. So basically, this plaque was engineered for the sole purpose of delivering the information that this lightsaber prop replica, signature edition at least, only 750 was made, worldwide edition. That's the only point of this plaque, to give you that information. And in the past, the same information could have easily been delivered by simply saying signature edition 245 / 750. This was done with the vast majority of master replicas, especially the lightsaber hilts. So for whatever mysterious reason, and by the way, if you watch my other videos, you'll clearly see that the version 2 signature edition, as well as the Empire Strikes Back, they don't have this plaque. They just have the one plaque, the one signature plaque, and the number, as well as the worldwide number, is just put on it. So for a short window of time, probably, I would say 2005, 2006, for some inexplicable reason, Master Replicas decided not to put the worldwide limitation on their plaques. And this was an oversight that's just, in my opinion, inexcusable and, quite frankly, rather stupid. How are you supposed to know how many was made if that's not an information that's basically put anywhere in your product? It might be on the website, and maybe historically the information would be stored in places like, maybe the rpf.com or rebelscum.com. But from a company's point of view, you need that limitation. It should come with the product. Their certificate of authenticity does not take the time to reprint either the number or the worldwide limitation, as a lot of, say, for instance, statues do. That comes with certificates of authenticity. You'll have the number and the limitation on the paper as well. But Master Replicas never did that. That was not their habit. And so the only way to know what number you have and to have the worldwide edition is to actually rely on the plaque. And both limited edition and signature edition had that plaque. So when they neglected to put the worldwide limitation and only gave you your number, this was a grave oversight, and rightly so. I think the majority of collectors complained about this. They didn't like this. And so in order to address this kind of ridiculous oversight, Master Replicas then felt like they had to go back and produce this secondary plaque, which would then give you the actual worldwide edition. This plaque is essentially a testament to their mistake, because it would not be necessary if you simply had the backslash and the total edition size, which they had, basically for the rest of their products, both before and after this, bad decision. So in the middle of Master Replica's history, there's going to be a couple of, and since I only collect lightsabers, for me of most interest, there's going to be a couple lightsabers where you've now created a dichotomy. You've now created separation. There's different products now. Because how, you may ask, did they deliver this? Well, I wasn't there when it happened. And so I'm not sure how the details go. This is an extremely expensive, high-end, signature edition piece. And so I believe from my limited research on the forums that at that time, Master Replicas simply, without even asking, mailed the plaque to every single buyer of the signature edition. Now, this wasn't too hard to do because there's only 750 of them. But the problem is that there were other lightsaber replicas whose limitation was way, way, way higher, okay? And the rumor is, like for instance, I'll give you an example, like for instance, Darth Sidious's lightsaber, they made like 4,500 of those. No signature version, but 4,500 limited edition. I don't know if Master Replicas automatically mailed 4,500 of these secondary plaques with a worldwide edition size, for instance, for the Darth Sidious limited edition hilt. Rumor then is that you probably had to send for it, like write to Master Replicas and ask for it, and they would send it to you. And when you do that, you basically split the collectible into those with the second plaque and those without the second plaque. Obviously, those with the second plaque being a little bit more rare. Bear in mind that Master Replicas sought to correct this mistake later on after they already sold these products. People move, people stop caring, people may not contact back then, And so I would guess that there was quite a few in that, time span that they never got the second plaque. They either didn't know about it, or they missed the opportunity, or they forgot, or they just didn't care. Some people just didn't care. So now, for these certain products, you have ones with the second plaque and ones without the second plaque. And obviously, the lightsabers with the second plaque are a bit more valuable because to be truly complete, you had to have it. How do you know which replica should have a second plaque and which replicas never had one to begin with? Well, for those of you paying attention, the answer is really, really easy. If you have a plaque where the number is followed by a backslash and another number, let's just say 254 out of 1,500 or 87 out of 4,000, then that is a product that they never needed to make a second plaque for, because the total limitation is included in that little tiny space here. You'll see that, of course, with Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader, Return of the Jedi Version 2, etc., etc. If you see a Master Replicas product that just has a number like this, it says just Signature Edition 245, then you know that that's a product that had a second plaque made. And to save you the trouble, I'll tell you which sabers needed the second plaque. So basically every lightsaber made for Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith had this problem. They needed a second plaque, and that includes the limited edition Darth Vader Episode 3, the Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3, the Anakin Skywalker Episode 3, the Darth Sidious Episode 3, and the Yoda Episode 3. All 5 of those limited edition lightsaber hilts did not have limitations, and they each had second plaques that were made for them. In comparison, Yoda's lightsaber from Attack of the Clones did not have a second plaque, did not need to. The extra little print, literally less than a centimeter, was added to the original plaque. You didn't need it. You didn't need it for the Empire Strikes Back Vader, for the Return of the Jedi Luke, for the Obi-Wan Kenobi Weathered. They all had the backslash total limitation, as you would expect in literally 99.9% of all collectibles. The fact that somebody in the Master Replicas board who made the decision not to have that? I don't know. He must have been drunk or high. Who could possibly explain why he would make a decision that almost no other collecting company before or since in decades has ever done, to simply give you your number and not tell you the limitation, either on certificate or on the product or in a plaque. So those are the 5 from the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. And then finally, you see before you the Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope Luke Skywalker Signature Edition. Also needed second plaque, that's 6. And the 7th is the Elite Edition of the same lightsaber, Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope. So my suspicion is all of these products were launched in 2006, 7 total. The 2 New Hopes, and then Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda from Revenge of the Sith. Those 7 lightsaber prop replicas all require a second plaque to be truly complete. An odd story, but there you have it. Okay? So now we're going to push this back a little bit. This is the envelope, a little bit wrinkled. You can tell again that's from later on because it's black and it's the one that kind of folds out versus the old ones. There was almost a manila beige envelope that actually you open up like a regular envelope. So this is the most important thing here, of course, the actual signature edition, certificate of authenticity. The rest you've seen before. Business reply mail. This is their registration. 2 of them. Fair enough. Warranty. Comes in 3s or 2s. And then here, a little blast from the past. Check out some of their products from back then. You can see they had the helmet, the Snowspeeder, signature edition AT-AT Walker, a whole bunch of blasters. Now, what did I tell you? You can see that this brochure is from the same generation as this. Second plaque, second plaque, second plaque. Darth Maul actually does not need a second plaque, battle damaged. Yoda does. I don't know why they repeated all of that. They repeated Anakin Skywalker Episode 3. You already showed that here. Second plaque. Here is the Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3, second plaque. And then you have the 0.45 half-scale replicas, which doesn't really count. And then you have the Force FX lightsabers. And then you have some of their other non-Star Wars licensing. Pretty fascinating. Like the Cinderella Slipper, Narnia stuff, Rocketeer, Predator 2, and even the Lord of the Rings. This is a pretty cool piece, actually. The One Ring. And it's a little advertisement for their collector society. So, it'll be marvelous. 2006. So this clearly shows again the problem there. That all those products definitely have the need for that second plaque. So the story doesn't end there. Now let's take a look here at the actual certificate of authenticity. So I'm again going to slowly scroll up so you can take the time to actually read what it says. right here. And then of course over here is the actual certificate of authenticity. And you no longer have the signature here of either Lucasfilm licensing or Master Replicas. This is this type of certificate of authenticity from the later pieces, which you can show with other reviews. My Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi version 2 has something similar. But now look at this. Here's the back. What's the difference, guys? I mean, for those of you who've seen reviews of this, you can easily tell. Normal Master Replica's signature edition certificates of authenticity is a triplicate, right? 3 folds, three so-called a triptych, right? 3 parts. And where's the third part? Do you remember from Samuel L. Jackson, Count Dooku, David Prowse? All these signature editions included a picture of the actor signing, usually here, and then you had the center certificate, Master Replicas, and this information would be on the opposite page, and you will fold together. I mean, as far as I can see, this is the only one where they didn't have that. They cheaped out. They just had a limited edition type certificate that just folded together with no picture of, Mark Hamill signing, which frankly is just outrageous. Did somebody get fired for all these decisions made in 2006? Was it just because Master Replicas was about to go into bankruptcy? Were they going to lose their license? What was going on? I don't know. This was, so long ago. But it was very distressing, and there was, again, an outcry. This lightsaber is probably neighborhood of $500, maybe $600 back then. Only 750 people bought it, so there was an outcry. How could you not have a picture, Insulting enough that you screwed up the limitation, but you didn't even have the picture for your signature edition certificate. And so again, responding to this, complaint, they had to go back and try to fix it. And so they sent, along with this second plaque, they had to send a picture of Mr. Mark Hamill signing it. This is the picture that should have gone over here, like this. That's what should have happened, okay? And they, of course, could not completely make that right. They weren't going to print or reprint 750, new certificates the way it should have been done. So all they did was they just kind of gave you this, they sent you this picture right here. Star Wars Luke Skywalker, lightsaber. Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, signature edition. Here's a beautiful picture of Mr. Hamill signing it. So even though he's signing A New Hope, he looks older than, of course, the version signing Empire Strikes Back, as that was 4 or 5 years ago. And you can see here, you can clearly see he's signing the versions that you see over here, signing those plaques. And they dated it for you, Mark Hamill, November 2nd, 2005, in preparation for the 2006 release. And so in doing this, you've now then created another separation. Supposedly, this was sent to all the people with the second plaque. But over time, you can see that because this was not actually attached to the certificate of authenticity, but mailed as a separate postcard almost, this is easy to lose, easy to get damaged. easy, right, to be misplaced. So talk a little bit more about this after I put everything away. So I also wonder, by the way, if that paperwork is all completely perfect, because obviously, it's got a little bit of duplication. I got 2 limited warranties and 2 registration cards. And I didn't get the black glove, or the white, I'm sorry, not the black glove, but the black wiping cloth. Some of the later ones would come with a bag with a microfiber cloth, like Samuel Jackson's certainly did. But whatever. Again, the most important thing with that paperwork is the certificate of authenticity. And in the case of the New Hope Luke Skywalker signature edition, that insert photo is worth its weight in gold, worth its weight in platinum. So that's where we stand. You're going to have signature editions without the plaque, signature editions with the plaque, signature editions without the plaque and without the photo, signature editions with the plaque and with the photo, signature editions with the plaque and without the photo. And who knows? Maybe you have a signature edition with the photo but with the plaque. But I will tell you that right now, there are, I think, 3 YouTube videos of the Master Replicas Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope Luke Skywalker Signature Edition. One by Alex L., one by Star Wars Replicas, and another gentleman, I think, in Britain. His was a shorter one. And of those 3, Star Wars Replicas, Gabe, he has the 2 plaques, but when he showed the paperwork, there was no photo. Alex L's is an unnumbered, which meant that his was basically from an owner of Master Replicas or a high-rank executive. They recently auctioned off Brian Ono, CEO of EFX, and a former high-ranking member of Master Replicas. They auctioned his collection, and there was a signature edition New Hope lightsaber with no box and no second plaque, no photo, and that was unnumbered. So Alex House had an unnumbered version, but his did not have a second plaque or the photo. Actually, I don't know. Maybe his did have the second plaque. I can't remember. Maybe his didn't have the photo. And finally, the British gentleman actually finally had both, but he had to pay quite a bit because his version didn't come with either. And he went on Facebook and somehow found somebody stupid enough who had a signature edition piece trying to sell that. And he somehow, I don't know how, convinced the guy to sell him just the photo and the second plaque without the rest. That was an unbelievable mistake by the seller. But, things were different back then, I guess. So just to say that having a complete, truly complete New Hope Luke Skywalker Signature Edition with both plaques and the insert photo is pretty darn difficult, not common. Now, the funny thing is, for the other lightsabers released that year, like the Obi-Wan Revenge of the Sith version or the Darth Sidious version, supposedly, again, those plaques were sent separately. But for the signature edition, the interesting thing is there was actually an indentation in the styrofoam for that. And so I wonder what the difference was, like what was going on. Maybe the second plaque was always meant to be placed with the New Hope, and the photo was what they forgot. It's a little bit weird. If they knew by the time, because I think that they made this in a way maybe later, but it's like if they already knew that it was a mistake, why did they print the original signature without just putting in /750? Why spend extra money on making this secondary worldwide edition plaque? If you guys out there really know the lore or the details, I would love to hear it, because they definitely had a indented space in the original packaging to put the secondary plaque in there. It didn't have to be rewrapped or shipped separately or anything like that. So by that time, they may have already realized their mistake, but maybe it was too late to rectify it by printing these new signatures, because Mr. Hammer already signed it back in November 2005. So then they had to just bite the bullet and create the second plaque. Maybe they already done it for some of the earlier lightsabers where there was no room to put it. Those original packages had no room for the second plaque. Those were sent separately, but maybe by the time they produced, the New Hope version, they already knew that they had to do that, so they put it in there. I don't know, it's a mess. But even after all of that, they created another separate controversy by not creating a proper certificate of authenticity for a signature edition, which they should have. This is Mark, freaking Hamill, for God's sakes. You should know that we would want a picture of him. The whole cool part, the whole point of these signature editions is to have a certificate showing the actual actor signing it. That's one of the best parts. So again, very odd and disappointing, and just quite frankly, stupid choices made by MR back in those days. Okay, so again, as you can tell, it's just a lot of history with this piece, even with the production of it and the oddities. So that explains the second plaque, it explains the photo. Finally, let's take a look at this actual replica. So we're going to gently lift it up. So one of the things to be aware of, this is an extraordinarily heavy lightsaber. Pretty funny, I don't think, and I'm going to do another review, obviously, with all three Luke signature edition pieces. But frankly, I don't recall the Empire Strikes Back version being this heavy. This is it's not Mace Windu Count Dooku heavy, but it's pretty darn heavy. It feels heavier than Empire for sure. So there's quite a bit of heft to this. So as before, while I'm talking, we're just going to now give you the opportunity to look at this thing really close up. This is a view that normal human beings, normal people would never be able to see, because you would literally have to bring the lightsaber within an inch of your eye. And normal people don't really look at their prop replicas that close. It's a little bit silly. But let me just show you all of this. And while doing so, let's just talk a little bit about, again, the history. So I kind of went over this with the Empire Strikes Back version. And again, I really should have done it with this first, but what are you gonna do? I bought them backwards, so I made my reviews backwards. So we'll do a little bit of repeat history lesson. So, George Lucas wanted something really cool looking for the hilt of his space laser sword. It was a challenge trying to find one that he liked. But but they finally hit the jackpot when they went and used the Graflex flash guns from those old, point and click cameras. And this is a 3-cell Graflex flash gun. They come in, I think, 4 and 5 cell as well, which is way too long. But from here to here, it's a 3-cell, okay? And this is the bunny ear, so-called bunny ear, and it's attached to the bulb holder right here. Just like with Empire, the central thing can actually move. So you can actually, press it down and move around a little bit. And this thing can actually tilt as well, move around a little bit as well, because again, this is meant to hold the bulb for the flash gun. So we'll make sure it's nice and centered. So here's the button on the top here, the back surface. The button actually depresses. As you can see here, this is the tab that keeps this thing in place when unscrewed. You can see the nice little knurling on the side. This is called the beer tab, by the way, right here. Bunny ear, beer tab, the bulb holder. You can see here the details. This is here to hold this in place. It's symmetrical on here. You can also see it on the other side. Over here, you see these little knobs. On the undersurface, this is a glass eye right here. You can see the screw. And again, the bulb holder. And in lightsaber lore, this is the emitter, where the beam comes out. So if you recall, in terms of the differences, at least in this stage, you still have the switch. So for Empire, they kept the bunny ears. They kept this detail here with the knobs. But instead of the glass eye, they put in another button and they removed the beer tab. Moving further down, this is a magnification bubble strip from a Texas Instruments calculator, Exactra 19 or 20. And they would just cut it and put it here. So this is very reminiscent of the same bubble strip that they used for the Darth Vader lightsaber hilt from New Hope and Empire. Here, you can see there's 7. And the Empire Strikes Back, this was replaced by the PCB board, the cut edge of the PCB. This is the clamp box that holds the graphics together. And over here, you see that there is the lever. In the actual Graflex, there's a washer, and in the prop, that was removed. You see the same type of grooving here as an Empire. Now, if you consider this to be the back, sometimes the clamp box is on the other side. Sometimes the clamp box is on this side. For Empire, the clamp box, if I recall, was on this side. But in here, it's on this side. So I think it's 3 o'clock for Empire, and here for New Hope, for some reason, they put it on the 6 o'clock. It changes depending on the prop. Just another interesting observation. You have the rubber T-tracks. The original prop, these were not rubberized with no rubber coating. This was a Master Replicas edition. And these are all hard plastic, most likely. For the New Hope version, you can see that we have 7 of these, if you want to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whereas Empire Strikes Back, there's only 6. You can see that here, look carefully, there is a 30-degree angle here, right? Whereas for the Empire Strikes Back, Luke, it was a 90-degree angle. There was no angle here, no bezel. And of course, for Empire Strikes Back, you can see the screws. There's a notch in the T-tracks. And here, there's no notch. Let's take a look at the back end. You can clearly see 2006 Lucasfilms, 2006 Master Replicas. This is the D-ring, held in place by 1 rivet versus the kobold being Empire Strikes Back that was held in place with 2 rivets. This one only has 1. And the D-ring, as you can see, can move. And you can see signature edition quite clearly to differentiate this from the limited editions. Now, one of the cool things about these T-track grips is that there's no stickiness. This is the best T-tracks I've had, in essence, among almost all the collectibles. Even the rubber grips for Mace Windu was sticky. Definitely the ones for my Dual Vader, Empire a little bit. For sure, the Empire Strikes Back was a little touch sticky. This one was not sticky at all. Beautiful. So somehow it did not degrade at all. But the thing is, over 20 plus years, the glue holding these things together can get a little bit brittle. This was a known issue with the Count Dooku lightsaber hilt, where their kind of leather or faux leather grip started lifting off. You would have to kind of, maybe reattach it with the wood glue or super glue. Well, so too, the rubber T-tracks for this is beginning to come off. If you look really closely, you can see that some are better adhered, but in others, like right here, there's a little tiny sub-millimeter gap. Like right here, you can see that, just a little bit. See that? A little, just because of the glue. Now, it's holding still all the way along here, so most of it, it's still very good. But at the very end, it's just starting to lift up just a little bit, mainly because, again, of the fact that this is just so old. And you could try to re-glue this with a toothpick and a little bit of super glue, but it's hard. There's memory, and it's going to tend to want to lift up over time. Of course, this is not a toy. We're going to be mainly just displaying it after I show you this, but yeah, this is what it feels like to actually hold Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, which, by the way, he doesn't really use very much in the movie. There's that famous scene on the Millennium Falcon where he's using it against the training remote. And then maybe a little bit later on, but he never duels Vader, for instance. Obi-Wan does that. And so, he doesn't really use it very much again. He swings it a couple times when he first gets it. And then the training remote. Those are the only 2 instances where, he used it. See the little screw right here? See all the little details over here and here. The lever. So yeah, this is just really a remarkable shape. You've seen it on the display stand, so I just wanted to kind of showcase all of this thing super close in a way that would be very difficult for you to do unless you own this. Take a look at the detail of the lever right here. So you can see there's always a little bit of dust, but not bad. Of course, we're treating these things like, priceless heirlooms, which in a way they are. But back in 2006 and 7, I have no doubt that people were playing with them, swinging them around, wearing them as part of costumes, cosplay conventions at the time. Who knows? But yeah, that's why there's very few of these in as good a shape as this is. Let's get this thing close. So you can tell by here, there's this extra little groove right here and here. And that groove is there to basically accommodate the T tracks. So rotate it here. I want to make sure that it's properly lined up. Give it one more spin for you guys. Really is a beautiful, remarkable lightsaber. You can clearly see the one rivet that was used to hold that D-ring in place. Of course, it's all part of the prop from MR. This is the generic D-ring. Whereas for Empire, they actually took the D-ring apparatus from a kobold and did 2 rivets to put it into position for whatever reason. And now, that's on the acrylic. So you can see with the black background and the acrylic place, the glare turns into a perfect mirror. You can see again my recording apparatus as well as my undershirt. Let's turn it around one more time with the display acrylic on. We'll take off this. Give it a couple more spins. And when I have time, and I'll need a lot of time, I will need to do a review, like I did with the Vaders, of all 3 Luke Skywalker signature editions. And there's one thing, or it's one thing, talking about the differences between the New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I did that for both the Empire and the New Hope Hill reviews. But it's another thing, actually seeing the differences and looking at the 2 together. So that'll be a pretty cool, neat little thing. So you can actually see it, in real time. I have to kind of plan that out, be a little bit careful, be a little bit ginger doing it. These are $3,000 plus, like, essentially, works of art that you're handling. But here it is. And just think, the beginning of the year, 2023, I just had the signature edition of Empire Strikes Back Vader and Return of the Jedi Vader. I mean, certainly nothing to sneeze at. Those 2 are very, very difficult to get in good condition. I mean, but since then, completing the Vader trifecta with the dual signature, and then hunting down all 3 Lukes, and picking up a Mace Windu and Dooku signature edition as well. You know, pretty big accomplishment. Not easy to do. So there's just the Anakin Attack of the Clones signature edition, the Darth Maul Phantom Menace signature edition, and then the Mara Jade. With this, I have 8 of the signature editions, 8 of the 11, missing just 3. I would dearly love to eventually get the Anakin one as well. And then I'll probably shift my focus to a couple of the other lightsaber hilts that I think are a bit more rare. Not the biggest fan of the Darth Maul hilt, and of course the Mara Jade one means nothing to me. Those two tend to be a little bit easier to source, so I might put it on the back burner. But eventually I would like to get the Anakin one, and that will be the one that I'll be, putting my attention to and my efforts on acquiring in the near future. But for now, I'm just going to really enjoy having my 3 Luke signature editions and my 3 Vader signature editions. Pretty over the moon with that. So this was an exceptionally long review, probably because I'm just speaking a little bit slower, because I have this, nagging cough, freaking clearing of the throat. Kind of take some time to take a breath. I have to take time to drink. But there was just a lot to cover with the second plaque, with the photo insert, more Graflex history, quality, all the little things that go into it. And also just trying to take the time again to show you this lightsaber from all different, distances, all different angles, trying to be complete, so you have an idea of what every part of this looks like. So I hope you enjoyed the long time. You can skip here and there. Maybe later on I'll actually put in some time skips. But again, this closes the Luke signature edition trifecta. I'll make another video, as I did with Vader, comparing all 3, although most of the action will be just looking at Empire and New Hope, since Return of the Jedi is a completely new lightsaber. Make one more video of that, but this completes all of this. Very, very happy to get these in good shape and have, in my opinion, just complete in box, really, really nice versions of each. 20-year-old, after all, replicas. And for this one, especially to get it with the second plaque and the photo, very important to me. So until next time, do take care.